Guacamelee 2 is a Metroidvania-style game emphasizing fighting, platforming, and in particular multiplayer, which is not something you commonly see in these types of games. It's inspired from Mexican culture, across music and the aesthetic. The original came out in 2014, February, on previous gen consoles. This one just came out this past January, and it's only recently been made available on Xbox Game Pass. It has some DLC as well, which changes the price point, and I'll be getting into that later in the review. First of all, spoilers. The beginning of Guacamelee 2 is playing a brief summation of the ending from the first game. So if you are interested in the story of Guacamelee, the beginning of the game will completely spoil the ending of the first game. But then after this is just a brief section. The game starts again. You're on the guava farm. This time he's married and has 2 kids. He marries a love interest from the previous game and a sweet dad bod briefly. But you're starting from the same spot and then going to the town again like you are in the first game. The aesthetic and all that, the influence, inspiration, comedic tone, this all makes a return. It's going more for like the colorful action kind of fighting platforming. You have references like here from Bad Dudes, Street Fighter, all, in that kind of fun comedic tone, like for everybody. And influences are wide-ranging. Again, you have like from Mexican culture with Day of the Dead to like Aztec, and then Olmec again with statues that transport you across the map. Even though the plot is now multi-dimensional, the gameplay is the same. You have the living and the dead world that you go back and forth to, affecting combat. And you have the luchador sequences make a return where you're encaged in an arena. And then the platforming too, where you're changing the platforms from one to the next. And then and you have a mix like of stuff in between. Like here you're seeing I'm traveling across like a lava, and like the lava comes in, I'm fighting enemies at the same time. So this would be like the second type, where you're fighting and doing some light platforming. And then sequences where it's just platforming. The screen is typically much more open, where you're able to explore, kind of traverse around. The chests make a return as well, that have different effect, your abilities, stamina, health, all that. The challenge rooms, which are platforming and combat oriented, also come back with the chests that, like the game before, it's optional if you want to tackle them or not. And then finally the skills with the money, with currency, like you're able to upgrade that. The biggest addition though is the pollo, the chicken, now has more abilities. He has his like own Chozo statues that you're seeing here. This is the biggest improvement, and there's the sequences with the chicken as well, and even separate challenges that are optional later in the game. They're introduced naturally as you play it, but you can choose to jump into these. The DLC you come across as you're playing the main game. It's a little bit different this time. The costumes make a return where you can buy it, but you have the Proving Grounds, which is like the El Infierno from the first Guacamelee, and you have to pay this time to play it. So again, very similar to the first game. You have the Mexican-inspired contemporary and traditional styles where it has more trumpet and guitar, and then the fighting game sounds, like the wrestling moves, the grapples, the punching. Nothing too surprising. If you played the first game, you know what you're jumping into here. Multiplayer is now beefed up from 2 to 4 players, so much more appealing if you're looking to play couch co-op. No online, and then you jump in at the safe points. You have the bubble that floats around, kind of like with New Super Mario Bros. I do recommend the game. It just does a good job, again, like the last game, of fitting with its niche. It's not, overly ambitious. It's a lot of what you know before. So, you're not going to be surprised. If you're looking for something different, then I wouldn't bother. It is going to be the same. But the multiplayer is everything is better. The multiplayer, how much they add. I recommend buying it. The best way is just through Game Pass. It's fairly short. You can easily breeze through it pretty quick when you're playing by yourself with other people. And then the one thing I don't like though is the DLC. You have to pay now, whereas Inferno, which is kind of what it's based off of, came with the game. So that is kind of one negative. So the best is to kind of play it through that, and then if you want more, just buying the DLC. And the costumes I wouldn't bother with too. That's also additionally more like it was in the previous game. Like if you like the video, consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.